Hey everyone, welcome back to part two of the Real Black Talk segment, where we left off when we were talking about mental health, stigmas, and traumas that kind of plague ethnic communities. So now we're going to move over to the next topic. We're going to talk about intergenerational trauma. And what intergenerational trauma is it's basically situations dealing and things that happen to a generation or generations before you that kind of trickles down to from your parent down to you to your children and so forth. And so a lot of those things with those particular traumas, they can stem from anywhere. It can stem from situations pertaining to the culture, uh, the justice system, just many different things that can happen with that. And so when you think about, let's say, a person that is bullied, that can turn into a trauma that can also trigger your mental health to become out of whack. And so for me, I feel as a Black woman, each of us has had our own situations with dealing with trauma, dealing with mental health, dealing with having to be silenced. And one of those, I feel like, as with Black households mostly, because I know this is where it mostly comes from, is what happens in this house stays in this house. I feel like we got to get rid of that. And here's why. Let's say something is happening to little Susie. And a lot of times we've heard the same thing. You have an uncle, or you have a mother's boyfriend, or a male figure in your life that is within your family that does something to little Susie. And because the mother may find out and is afraid to lose her boyfriend, or he might be covering the bills, whatever the case may be, they have this thing where they say, well, don't tell nobody else. Don't make sure you don't tell. And they kind of cover that up. Yes, that is predatory behavior. You're also helping a predator get away. But now little Susie has to grow up with these traumas. And not only that, but sometimes little Susie's mother may have also been touched by another male figure. And so that is why she's telling her daughter, well, I had to suck up my traumas. I had to deal with my own mental health crisis in the best that I could by just being quiet. And it's like you tell a person, be quiet. So they feel like if you don't say anything, eventually you'll forget about it. That is not true, because now you're going to grow up and you're going to always remember that when someone did something wrong to me, nothing was done. So what if you see somebody else going through that? So you're going to think that, well, it happened to me and I turned out just fine. No, you didn't, because you just passed all that generational trauma on to your daughter. And now you got your daughter living out here in the world and she's dealing with that too. And I feel like we have to get to a place as a Black community to stop shunning people for their feelings. Stop calling people weak for their feelings. Stop telling them to suck it up and be tough. And another thing that I feel the white community needs to get out of their brain is when they hear the word strong Black woman, strong Black man, it's misinterpreted when it comes to your mental health. If you're going to a doctor because you feel something is wrong with you and you're dealing with white counterparts versus Black counterparts, they've got that in the back of their brain. Well, you all right. I'm going to just give you this and you'll be okay. Nothing's wrong. So now what happens? You're creating this stigma to say, what is the point of me getting help if all they're going to do is tell me that I'm deem me as being a strong person, so it's okay. So now I'm on the fence with my own life because I know I'm not okay, but now I don't have any trust. I don't have trust for the systems that are created were mostly what they would say designed to help you. How does it help? How do you fix that, Jess?
I agree. I agree with everything you said. First and foremost, it's okay not to be okay. And you first have to get to a point where you can say, I'm not okay, regardless of what other people think. Um, I strongly agree with the whole what happens in this house stays in this house thing. I grew up like that. And I definitely raised my children that way in a sense. It wasn't anything serious going on like that in my house, but as a child, but it's the same thing. And I think a lot of that comes from fear of, just how we were treated as a whole, as far as Black people in general. Our kids being taken from us, our kids being murdered for no apparent reason, things of that nature. Um, I think when it comes to our mental health, though, we also need to learn how to help each other. When you see that someone is struggling, it's okay to reach your hand out and help them, to take a couple extra minutes maybe and go the long way home from work just to stop by somebody's house and see if they're doing all right. Um, Stick together. There was an instance where my son was called a nigger, essentially, in school, when he was in kindergarten. This wasn't very long ago. And I felt so alone, because when I had to deal with it, when I had to go up to the school, when I had to, you know, put the fact that my son doesn't just have a parent that doesn't care for him out there was no one there to back me up. There was no one there to let me know and help me with my own mental health issues at that point, because I now have to explain what the world is like to my 5-year old son at that point. That's not an easy conversation. To your point, as things being passed down, I don't think a lot of us realize that um, a lot of the stuff we carry, a lot of our trauma is not our own, and that's why when we say I'm not okay, but we don't know why, that's part of the reason. We're carrying our ancestors' traumas, our parents' traumas, a cousin's trauma, an auntie, uncle, whoever trauma, and it's imperative that before you have children, you need to get the help you need. It's time to heal those situations so that when we pass that DNA on to the children we birth into this world, one, we're able to deal with them. But when you don't deal with that trauma that you have, and then you then went and birthed children into this world, and they're acting out or they're doing some things that you don't understand, we can't relate to them in a way or be able to deal with them in a way, because one, we don't know what our own problem is. How in the world are we going to help our kids? And they're our future, right? So that's my take on it.
Carlos.
um, you're right. Yes, the children are our future. It's so important that we break these generational curses that Kia was speaking about, that are passed down, you know, from our ancestors, from just backgrounds of trauma, um, mistreatment, abuse from every area, of our lives, just abuse, um, mentally mostly, psychologically. That the both of those kind of work together, because what the mind thinks, the body does. So it's just like it feeds off of something. It's definitely important that our awareness, we bring awareness to this, and get the proper help that is needed. Um, I wouldn't suggest that we get the help like normal, but but really seek wise counsel, preferably on a spiritual note, literally. Um, that's coming from a pure place, truthfully, not to sort discord or bring division among the family, but bringing them together to create this new um, generational thing of healing. So much, there's so many of us, like, again, just that suffer from this is so much. And, it's depression, it's all of those things, and it has been upon our cultures for very various reasons why. Um, I most importantly do reflect back to the Most High and the things that were passed down, and these are curses, rather of our disobedience. So it's just so important that we acknowledge that first before we just address individual issues, because these are things that grew to this point, that grew to this level, you know, of understanding. So my thing is that you have to find that balance where you basically know the truth and you somehow able to connect the truth to reality, and to bring forth a healthy way of healing, because the old way is not working. You know, we must face the truth of our identity, and a lot of us are lost because identity lost. Identity, loss of identity. You don't know who you are. How can you know what to be or what to do? How could you know what to project? You just only doing what you saw. If father did it, mom did it, it's okay for me to do it. For instance, when we're disciplining our children, um, I suggest that you do it in a way you calm down first, and you break it down and you explain to them why they're getting disciplined. And then once you do it, that you demonstrate it in a way that this is to help you, correct you, and do it out of love, in opposed to when I was growing up, you always had people frowned up with a belt in their hand or a switch. And so as a child, you're computing that this person hates me or trying to kill me, etc., which projects, trauma. And I can say, just from my point of view, that, me being raised, it can be passed down because you're never told that that's the wrong way of discipline. You're told that that's how you discipline your children. And so you just pass it down and it goes on and on and on. And it affects generations because, if children, with us living in a society that is, multiracial or multiracial, where all of them are in schools together, they come from different backgrounds. So when they sit down and they have a discussion with another nationality or race, and they say they just throwing out their experiences from childhood, they realize that they come from different, because this particular race may not believe in physical discipline. They may be believing just verbal or implementing punishment or whatever. So, that way, by verbally saying, hey, you're grounded or whatever. So what happened there goes a comparison, and then that child feels like they've been abused, in opposed to this child feel like they have not been abused, which is both abuse on each end, because it was, it could cause trauma there and it could cause trauma there, because children suffer from abandonment too. If you don't discipline them, then they won't feel love. So if you're disciplining them, then yeah, let's do it with love. Let's sit down and let's talk. Let's get an understanding what you did, and understand that I have to correct you so you won't do it again. So, definitely we come from that. We come not from that. And it's been an issue, and it must be fixed. It must be fixed, because it's just if not that, it'll just continue to be a generational cycle over and over.
Ron.
Yeah, I agree with everything you all said, even Jazz. I want to go back to where Carlos was talking about, like, getting right on the spiritual level. It's written that, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And we go back to, when I would hear the spiritual wickedness in high places, I think about the judicial system. I think about the educational system. I think about the financial system, the mortgage, how it was illegal for Blacks to get mortgages, to get loans, because we all know purchasing property is one of the quickest ways to build wealth. A lot of people will borrow against their mortgage, the equity, to put their children through school or to start a business. And so that's how those things have happened. And so I say all that to say, you know, it's passed down and continue to pass down, like you said, with discipline in the children. But also there's financial trauma, there's spiritual traumas, there are mental and emotional traumas that continue to be passed down from generation to generation because of all of the spiritual wickedness in the high places. I mean, this stuff is embedded. And so, like, you know, I've grew up with that. I remember getting in trouble because you were, whatever went on in the house, it was supposed to stay in the house. And I remember, like, man, that's, you know, that's not the answer. That's not the key. Because what if someone's being hurt in that house? Like you said, the example of little Susie, IKEA, where you were saying if somebody's doing something to little Susie and then she's in the house and that's what's going on in the house. So you telling this child, okay, well, no matter what goes on in this house, it stays in this house. And then we continue to groom victims. We continue to protect predators and groom victims. And, you know, like Carlos was saying, some people may have been verbally abused and other people may have physical abuse. And then there's a financial abuse where, you know, parents neglect you and don't take care of you, and they're sending you to school and you don't have what you need, shoes, clothes, what have you. And I just feel like a lot of this stuff all ties back into the generational traumas that have been passed down. Like I said, we, especially our people, have been traumatized in every way possible. I remember last year I was driving a dump truck. It was brand new, still had the temp tag in the window, and I was pulled over by a highway patrolman. And the crazy part was, I called my mom first. And then I said, hey, I'm getting pulled over. I'm over here. I'm on 270 north, you know, right by, you know, 70 east. And I said, but I'm about to go and record this because there was no cameras in the truck at the time. I'm like, I need to record this. And the fact that I felt that way, knowing my license were legit, the truck was legit. It was insured. It was brand new. There was nothing wrong with the truck. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that I felt the fear of not knowing if I was going to make it from that traffic stop. And this wasn't just like me in a personal vehicle. This is me in a commercial work vehicle with a company name on the side. You see what I'm saying? But I'm still feeling some type of way. And again, that's the trauma from what I had to watch for George Floyd, the trauma I had to watch from, Mike Brown and just other Casey Goodson and all the different people that have been murdered by law enforcement officers, especially the ones during traffic stops. Then, of course, we spoke about Sandra Bland. I mean, that was a minor traffic infraction that was exaggerated into something greater, which ended up being the reason she lost her life. And so, again, we spoke about that off, while we weren't on, but you shouldn't have that fear. But again, that's the generational trauma that's been passed down to me. You know what I'm saying? I have certain traumas that were passed down to me from seeing domestic violence and abuse growing up. And so it's certain things that I try to prevent my children from having to see and having to deal with. And I think the way we fix it is, like Jazz has said, we got to work on our trauma first. Like I said, me going to counseling, realizing some stuff that happened when I was 6 years old. And at the time I was, 32? I'm like, dang, I've been carrying this around that long. You know what I'm saying? And to carry that weight and that burden of a 6-year-old child, that mentally, yeah, I'm growing up, I'm working, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm still on the inside, that 6-year-old child is still crying out. He has not been healed yet. And a lot of us have those traumas. We have those little Susie traumas, those little Johnny traumas. And I feel like the way we deal with that is we need to heal. And we also need to figure out what our children need to heal from, our nieces and nephews need to heal from. You know what I'm saying? We need that village back. But in closing, the village stopped when people started getting offended about people checking their kids. And what I mean by that is not in a disrespectful way, but hey, you shouldn't be doing that, Keisha, or little Rod, what you doing? Well, don't be talking to my kid, then and then it got all this conflict going on. Then we start turning into the community violence because of those different situations. You know what I'm saying? Instead of all of us working together to heal each other, we're tearing each other down. And finally, we know the enemy's role, as we've said before, is to kill, steal, and destroy. We've been stolen, we've been killed, and we are being destroyed. And we are the chosen people. So that's all I have.
And I agree with you on that village part. We do have to get back to where we have a community of people on standby watching from afar and up close. And we have to also be those people. Like if we say, well, we don't have these kinds of people, okay, well, if it doesn't require a certain certification, and even if it does, like for instance, to be a psychologist, we know you got to go to college for that. You got to go get yourself in debt to do that, especially if you're Black. I mean, the average Black person that went to college could not afford college. They had to take student loans, right? So to be that, you don't need the certification if you know how to communicate, right? And but what one thing people have to understand is this: is they say I can't talk to everybody because they act this way. Well, here's the thing: we can't ignore it. Somebody's got to do it, right? I understand you, and when you're dealing with someone who has a lot of trauma, one thing is the first thing you have to be is understanding. Sometimes it's not for you to say anything. Sometimes it's just for you to just be that ear to let them get that up off of them. Because one of the worst things is like what you even said, some things I carried from my childhood to my adulthood, and it wasn't until somebody else started to point that out, like that comes from somewhere, certain things you're triggered by, it comes from somewhere, and a lot of it does. It starts in your childhood. So if you're not getting therapy as a kid, if you're not getting certain things off your chest, and I know down the line, I want to do a video just talking out on old school teachers. That whole thing is not being able to speak your opinion on a situation because it was deemed as you're being disrespectful and you're talking back. That is creating traumas for these kids. You have to let them be able to be expressive, because if you're not able to be expressive in some kind of way, the only outlet you might find is through harming yourself or harming somebody else. And that's where you kind of trickle into the white community. And notice me not taking a dig at the opposite race or at any race, but when you look at it, those people who woke up and decided, I'm going to go shoot up Walmart, or I'm going to, just go on a shooting spree, or I'm just going to shoot people just because they're, out there protest, something has to be off up here. And signs are not always loud, they are silent. Sometimes just being aware, informing yourself. You don't need to see a situation and experience it firsthand to understand that something could be wrong with somebody. If you are educating yourself on a consistent basis, it can't just be in one subject. You might want to be a scientist, but you also need to educate yourself in psychology. Read some books on psychology. Dark psychology, books on dark psychology, I recommend for people to read, because it helps you garner a better understanding of individuals without them directly saying it to you, and paying attention to how a person is talking. But there is nothing wrong with, especially like when I see kids, I try my best to, like if I see them doing so, or even like they got their pants hanging below their butt, pull your pants up. It's a woman in your presence, or it's the little girls around you, pull your pants up. Like, why are you doing? But sometimes even just me saying that, and if after I said it 2 or 3 times, they start remembering who you are. So now they're automatic touch. So you're kind of establishing rapport with them. So it's like you can talk about it. Last year when I was working at the store, there was this boy. He was 19 at the time, and every time he came in that store, now of course, he was dealing, he smokes marijuana. That's not uncommon for young black males or young black females or even older. Um, and he would always come in, and get a cigar or whatever. And I remember I had just every time he would come around, like I would just feel like there's something on this boy. It's something. And so one day I just started talking to him, and I started by asking, like, what you want to do with your life? Just asking him that. And at first, he was taken aback, but he said he liked science. And I said, well, what you want to do with science? Why you don't go to school for something like that? You're 19 years old, you're still young. And he said, he just felt like he didn't have the support to do so. And I said, there's always a way. But you yourself got to want. I said, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put that weed down. Because that weed and the friends I be seeing you rolling with, they ain't your friends. And so you kind of tell him that. And one day he came in there, and, I just bring it back up. Like, did you get yourself signed up for school? Yeah, school's around the corner. They go back in September. And I'm talking about, he just kind of walked up to the counter, and it's his look he had on his face. And when I say, like, he just broke down and started crying. And then I broke down and started crying because as an empath, you can feel things on people. And I could just feel there was things going on. His mom was an alcoholic. He was living with his grandmother. His grandfather died in front of him last year. He had a heart attack or something. It wasn't nothing he could do. He didn't know what to do, but he was already sick. And so when his granddaddy went down, but I had told him, I said, you got to get some type of therapy or counseling because that happened in front of you. And because you were close to your granddaddy, I said, this will follow you if you don't deal with it. And so you're going to shield it and you're going to push it as far to the back of your mind as you can get, but it's going to eventually come back to the front. Something's going to trigger you. And so those old emotions, they're going to come out because it happens to everybody. When you hold stuff in and finally it's like that straw that broke the camel's back, you might have been a little upset with somebody, but now they finna get every person you was mad at is gonna be taken out on whoever is in front of you. I'm guilty of that myself. Certain things that I didn't deal with, and that's why I say I'm not against therapy. I'm not against it. For you need to go see a psychiatrist. Go see a psychiatrist. I ain't need to go there, but I'm gonna just be honest. About a year and a half ago, I felt suicidal. I was at home. And I was dealing with my own mental issues. And one of those things is I'm an introvert. So I don't talk to a lot of people because understanding is hard to get. Especially, it just depends on who you're talking to. Some people don't get it. And some of those things, like people tell you, suck it up, suck it up, suck it up. And I just felt like I was in this spot, but I couldn't tell nobody. I couldn't tell my mom. I just couldn't tell anyone what I was dealing with in my own head, the things that I was dealing with, just looking at everything, my life, everything. And I sat there with my gun in my hand. And I was on the brink to say, you know what? I just don't want to feel nothing no more. I'm tired. I'm tired of feeling other people's pain because I feel things on other people. They ain't got to say nothing. It's like just that thing with energy, like you can feel it. And it just got to a point, it said I wasn't balancing it out. I wasn't balancing other people's traumas and things that I was seeing through them, hearing through them. Sometimes you do just got to turn off your phone. Sometimes you got to turn off social media. Sometimes you just have to exit from the world. And it's like self-care. I got to deal with me because I done took on so much, or I done walked in places where bad energy jumped on me. And it's got me in a type of place like that because that's never something that I would want to do. But when I tell people being strong, sometimes even the strong have weak moments where you strong ain't even in your vocabulary. You're not thinking about that. And so to hear, like I said, with that 15-year-old the other day, that was heartbreaking because we'll never know her real story. if it was true what was going on in the home, the mother's not going to be honest about it unless she has a breaking point to where she takes accountability and she got to just put it out there what it is. But again, this person isn't famous. They're not going to get a documentary. So good luck on finding that out. But again, it's like just seeing that, and I saw that clip of that video of her standing there and that woman is sitting there saying it's not worth it, don't do it. Just the thought process of what was going on in here. Something got her to that point, and when you try to reach out to people that don't want to listen, that could be anybody. And that's why I don't judge people for that, because again, I'm a spiritual person. I pray a lot. But again, it takes only a second for the devil to trickle in and take a hold of your hand, and he might pull you to the other side. So I thank God that he snatched me back, because I would have hated to have my family had to came and found me like that. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I killed myself. The people who love me, the people left behind, got to carry that burden. So now I just created another trauma. I created another issue for someone else to go and carry, but I'm not here no more. So I just tell anybody, get help, talk to somebody. If you can't talk to your family, your friends, I don't care if you got to call a helpline. If you got to talk to a person that owns the supermarket in your neighborhood, get it off of you. Write, if you can't talk to them, write about it. And definitely pray about it. Stay strong in prayer when it comes to your overall mental well being. Stay in prayer. Talk to God about it, because he already knows. But sometimes he just be waiting on you. Just come and talk to me. But you got to get yourself in that place where the world is shut out and you are in a quiet place. Because when you get to that quiet place, God can talk to you. And you can get that message that he might be trying to tell you something, but you just been around. It's not meant for everybody else to experience or to know what's going on. He just needs you alone. And so I think in the Black community, we have to definitely start being those people. You don't have to be certified in nothing to be to just be a something for somebody, some type of way. I ain't gonna say that means you're gonna have a cape and be Superman. You can't save everybody, but sometimes all it takes is kind words or a listening ear, and that could change the situation. The same as just telling somebody good morning or have a good day. That can change something, because you don't never know what anybody's going through. So you have to be careful with your words, but most importantly, speak life, because you got to put life on your tongue, even when it pertains to yourself, because it only takes a second to end it, whether it be you or by somebody else. And your words do have power, they do travel. And so I just, say this and say that for everybody. Like, I speak life into y'all. My sister, I know she had to kind of lead the stream a little earlier than expected, but that's okay. Just for everybody, because we don't know what each other is going through. But the way we can sit up here and we can talk and we can kind of trickle into different topics, that, like Jazz said, is therapeutic. It is, because you can kind of just, get off how you feel. And that is the whole point, like in this podcast, is not to be stuck on one topic. We want to get on many topics. And that's what this segment is for, to get on them heavier topics that can't really be trimmed down into 5-10 minutes. It's something that you get a different perspective, because hopefully this video can help somebody. And so with that being said, that's all I have on that. If there was anything else that you wanted to add, Carlos, you can go on, and I want you to do
Yeah,
that now before we jump off
definitely. I'm just let you know that any given time that we have to be available for one another. And from this day forward, not saying that you maybe still, go through that point, because I'm one of the strong ones that do. I'm sure Ron does, and as well as Jazz. So, being here for one another is not hard. And I'm here. So, just to clear the air with that, um, just in the need of that. But I want to touch on that. So, because true enough, this is an issue, but we have to dig deeper. And I want to go back to what Ron was saying. It's spiritual. And we got to know we living in a spirit world where we deal with Holy Spirit, demonic spirit, or evil spirit. And when you're dealing with depression, trauma, and all of that stuff, That's where it goes. That's where the voices and the different things come from. And people that do those things to you, it's a spirit that travel from generation to generation. So in one of the I wanted to go into the book of Tobit, which is in the Bible, but it's the apocryphal version. And just want to share what it was Sarai or Sarah who was she was dealing with depression. It said Sarah had been married seven times, but the evil demon Asimodeus killed each husband before the marriage could be consummated. The servant woman said to Sarah, "You husband killer, look at you. You've already had seven husbands, but not one of them lived long enough to give you a son. Why should you take it out on us?" So we know this person that's speaking is speaking from a with a spirit on them, which was an evil spirit. So it was a spirit to tear that person down, which again passed down traditions. Words are powerful. So we're saying that, and then that person takes that in. That's abuse, of course. But this person said, "Why should you take it out on us? Why don't you go and join your dead husbands? Basically, kill yourself, right?" So I hope we never see a child of yours. So Sarah was depressed. Sarah was so depressed that she burst into tears and went upstairs, determined to hang herself. But when she thought it over, she said to herself, "No, I won't do it. People would insult my father." It said, "People would insult my father and say, 'You had only one child, a daughter whom you loved dearly.'" But she hanged herself because she felt so miserable. Such grief would bring my gray-haired father to his grave. I would be responsible. I won't kill myself. I'll just beg the Most High to let me die, that then I won't have to listen to those insults any longer. Which it seemed like a form of bullying too, you know. But from there, Sarah prayed and basically poured out, like you said, Kia, to pray. Prayer is very important because we have to pray. That's what prayer is there for. Once we start seeing and feeling this spirit of depression, this spirit of trauma, this spirit of anger, these spirits that come to attack us mentally, to cause us to hurt ourselves physically, that's when prayer comes. Now, in some cases, of course, in households, this is not passed down. This is not implemented. This is not modeled. You see what I'm saying? So some people don't even know how to pray. Some people don't even know what's the truth is because they only talk. You read one verse, John 3:16. But that's why it's important for us to know. So my thing is that we always pray for one another, and to anyone that may be watching this, that may have experienced any trauma, any pain, is going through anything, we're here. We would definitely pray for you. We would definitely encourage you, and we have the tools to help you. You're not alone. You know, we're in this fight together. It takes us all to stick together. It takes us all to strive together, to pray together. Because in this time, there are very tragic times. And it hurts, you know, because so many of us we lost because they didn't have that, or they didn't know the art of prayer. Their spirit man, their spirit life wasn't connected. You know, so much of this world, distractions and devices, it pulls us away from our original place where we're supposed to be. We've gotten away because we have been taught that everything is based religion, which I don't believe in religion. I believe in the spirituality of it, the truth, which is the word, you know, Yasha, Christ brought forth. Like that's it. Like that is not religion. That is the truth. But of course, it becomes controversial because everybody is dealing with different religions and different understanding. So we got to also understand in the word, it tells us, which the Most High say, even in the commandments, thou shalt serve no other gods but me, which is in the book of Exodus. You know what I'm saying? So when we're out here serving these other gods and worshiping and bowing down to them, there are consequences. The wages of sin is death. And that's what we're up against. So we're not going to be able to reach everyone because people are not wanting to repent. They don't seek to repent. They don't seek to turn, because repentance is more than just asking for forgiveness. It's to turn away from what you're doing. Turn away, put those idol gods down. Do not bow down to any idol or worship it, because I am the Yahuwah, the Lord, your most high God. I tolerate no rivals. I bring punishment on those who hate me and on their descendants down to their third and fourth generation. So this generational curse comes from our disobedience. We must return back to the Most High and His commandments, and it eliminates these things. And I know that people, like, when we go to talking about dealing with the Bible, everybody, oh, here they go. But okay, tell me what's another solution. You still got counselors, you got all of that out there, therapy, and they don't even have the issue. They just tell you certain things. If they have not experienced it, how can they know how to share it with you? How can they tell you, how to handle this? People still commit suicide after they speak with therapists because everybody all about the money. The love of many has been waxed cold. So we have to take the ones that are genuinely going to project this truth and tell our people there is help, there is hope, but you got to take these steps to get there, and you got to eliminate these things in your life that take away from you, that that minimizes your spirit, man, and uh, maximize your flesh, man, which is death. Okay, and I just have to put it out there. These things pass down, and a lot of these children, a lot of these adults, if they don't take heed to that, that's where it goes back to, and it's just going to keep going on and on and on, you know, and it won't change. So my thing is all spiritual. That's very important. We have to get our spirit man right with the Most High in order to get that peace, in order to get that understanding. Because sometimes it's all these things lead us to a void spot where we start feeling like, why am I here? I mean, even myself, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Nothing ever really worked. I don't fit. I'm always helping everybody. Who's helping me? Who's filling me back up? See what I'm saying? Once I've given all, everybody walks away and I'm alone. So that's why, you said a great thing by prayer. Man, when I pray, and when I mean truly pray, because I pray in the spirit, I feel so leveled up. I feel so revived, so alive again. And it's important to pull away from social media. It's important to pull away because all that stuff takes away from you. It takes your attention. It has you so focused on all the things, and you depend on it for happiness. What happens when technology shuts down? What you gonna do?
I'm gonna read a book because I like to read. But yeah,
That's what I'm
so
saying. So can they? You know, but you and I and Ron, yeah. But what about the other 2/3 that don't like to read, especially our youth?
they're
Especially, we
gonna
said this,
they're gonna
our
have a
youth, they
hard
on
time
TikTok.
anyway.
The
They'll
youth
get
is crazy.
they'll
They
run
they
into
they
that.
yeah. So we can't continue. We gotta look at these social medias. Also, 5G plays a role in depression too.
We gotta we're running over a little bit, so we gotta
I'm
go.
sorry. I just
Yeah. So yeah, let me go on and end
but
this out before it get too long for
it's
me to
gonna get
end
deep.
up doing it. It happens. Let me go on and end
Yeah.
it out.
All right, fellas, but sorry y'all, but I just like to put that in there. Uh,
Well, that concludes all for part 2 of this segment tonight. So I do thank you all for tuning in. Please leave a comment, something that you were able to take away. If there's a question or just something that you want to hit on, definitely leave it down in the comments below, and I'll definitely read them. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at the Lindsay Sisters Podcast at gmail.com. And until next time, we will see you in the next video.